Hello everyone, welcome to my next video. We're going to be diving into using MetaBox with Oxygen. Oxygen yesterday released their latest version, which is 3.9 Alpha 1. And in that version, they are now integrated with MetaBox fully. So it functions just like Advanced Custom Field is. They've been working on that for pretty much all year, so I'm very excited that it's finally available. So I wanted to jump in and show you guys how to use it. So in this video, I'm going to cover two different custom post types that we're going to make. One is going to be team members, and the other is going to be testimonials. So this is what the finished product is going to look like. Don't care too much about the actual design. What we do care about is just the function of getting all of our data to show properly. And then let me jump over to my testimonials here. And again, don't worry about too much about the design, but let's look at the function of it. One of the very fun ones that we're going to play with is going to be the rating with our stars here. This is something that's going to be a little bit different than anything I've gone over in the past, but I think it's a fun way to utilize all the different options within Oxygen and MetaBox. So let's go ahead and take a look how we did all of this. So I already have it all built, but I'm just going to walk through how we did everything. So I'm going to start with our post types. So within Oxygen and MetaBox, I created a new post type in MetaBox. So you just hover over MetaBox, click post types, click new post type. We'll start with our team members. From here, you can go ahead and name it. I set mine to team members for the plural name, team member for singular name, and the slug just automatically pulls from the singular name. So that is one thing to keep in mind. I typically like to use the plural name for my slug, but I didn't catch that when I made these. So I wanted to point that out right away. If you change it after the fact, you will lose all of your data. So I do not recommend doing that. So in my case, I'm just going to leave it as is. You can come over to your labels and change these if need be. I just leave them as they are default. I come over to advanced, and here I will set my dash icon. You can choose whatever you want here. You can also set an SVG or custom URL if you want, but I usually just stick with an existing dash icon that is there. And the next important thing is to scroll down, and you want to make sure it has an archive, which is the default setting, but I just wanted to point that out, that it is very important to make sure that we have that set as has archive. The other important thing is making sure that in our actual settings under permalinks that we have those set to post name. So if yours isn't, go ahead and change it there and click save. Mine already were, but I just wanted to point that out. And then any of these other settings I leave as default in here. Certainly you can determine what is necessary for you and your use cases, but I would bet that typically the default is going to be everything that you need. You can even change where you want them to show up on the menu here. Typically they show up right under comments if you go with the default values. If you click on supports, you can choose what the custom post type has available. I leave these as default, which is these three options, but if you didn't want the thumbnail or the editor, you can uncheck those. And then you can also set your taxonomies. You can choose to use the categories, which is the default for WordPress, or you can add your own custom taxonomies within MetaBox as well. I did not for either of these two cases because I don't need them, but you certainly can if you wanted to. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and click publish or update, and that is going to be saved. So let's look at our next custom post type, which is testimonial. And again, you just add in your plural name, your singular name, and it'll automatically generate your slug from your singular name. Again, I would personally add the S for the plural name, but I didn't do that when I set these up, and I'm not going to go back and change them because I do not want to lose my data. So I'm just going to leave those as is. I didn't change anything under labels, left everything the same. Under advanced, again, I changed my dash icon, and that was all that I changed here. I did verify that it has an archive setup. And I come up to support and left these as default, as well as the taxonomies. Once you're done that, you can click publish or update, and your custom post type is set up. Next, we'll go to our custom fields. And here we'll start with team members. When you create your custom field group, you'll want to name that accordingly. And then I start with the settings tab first, and you want to set your location of post type and choose your custom post type here. Typically this defaults as post when you click on it. So you just click the little X here, click your drop down, and choose what you want. So in our case, we want team members. Position after content. The other one is on the side. So I usually stick with the defaults here of after content, high, and standard. Now we'll go back to our fields. You can see I have a few different field types here. I have text, email, telephone, text area, and single image. So let's walk through each of these. Under the first one, which is a text field, I have it set to team member. It automatically generates my ID, and I added a description so that we know exactly what this is for, and I left everything else default. I did the same thing for position. We labeled it as team member position. It's a text field as well. I put in a label description and left everything else default. Next is our email field, which shows up under the HTML5 list here. So again, that's email on this one. Set it to team member email and left everything else default. Next is our phone number, and this one also shows up under the HTML5 list, and just choose phone number, set it to team member phone number. I left everything else default besides the naming. Next, we have our about the team member. This one I have set as a text area and just changed my label. You could also set the WYSIWYG editor, which stands for what you see is what you get editor. And that's going to give you the ability to add numbering or any other data if you wanted to. So in my case, I'm just going to stick with our text area, and I don't need to change that, but certainly you can use the WYSIWYG if you wanted to. That would be the next closest to it. All our other settings are going to be the same, or default, I should say. And lastly is going to be our team member image. This one I just labeled as team member image, reset it as a single image. You'll notice that MetaBox has a handful of different options for images. In our case, I know we only need one image for our team member, so we don't need the ability to upload multiples. So that's why I chose single image in this case. I left the image size default as thumbnail, so it doesn't take up too much space on the back end. This doesn't control the size of it when we actually use it. This is just the size of how it shows in the back end. So those are all our fields for the team members. Once you have all of those in there, or if you want to add other ones, you can just click add field and choose them via here, or you can type in what you're looking for. I usually type in what I'm looking for just so I don't have to scroll through and look for it, but that's how you add additional fields as well. And once you have everything in, just go ahead and click Publish or Update. Next, we're going to go back to our custom fields here, and we're going to look at our testimonials. So again, the first step is put in your title for your field group, click on Settings, set your location for post type to your custom post type. In my case, it's going to be testimonial, and I left everything else default. Jumping over to our fields, we're going to look at the different fields we have here. I have mostly text fields and text area, which we're familiar with from before, but I'll walk through each of them. So we have our customer name, which is a text field. Everything else is default. We have our customer's title, which is a text field, and just change the title. We have our customer's company, which is also a text field. And again, just change the label, leaving everything else default. Next is our new field that we haven't looked at yet, which is a range. So I call this one star rating, and it's a field type range, which also happens to be under the HTML5 list. So just go ahead and choose range here. I added a description saying please rate out of 5 stars. I set my default value to 5. You can leave default value blank, but in my case, we're assuming that probably most testimonials that we're going to have on our site are going to be 5 stars. So just leaving it at default of 5 means we're not going to have to change it as often. We set our minimum value to 0, our max value to 5, and we're going to go in steps of 1. So meaning you can choose 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's not going to be any partial steps like a half star or quarter star, just full steps so we have a full integer. And I did not set any other settings besides those. Next, we're going to move on to the testimonial snippet, which is a text area. And our last one is going to be full testimonial. And I'll jump into why I have both of those when we actually go and look at the custom post types, which we're going to jump to in just a second here. So once you have all your fields in, again, if you need to add other ones, you can click Add Field, search for them, or scroll and look for what you want. Once you've done that, click Update or Publish. And we can jump and start adding our data into our custom post types. So since we started with team members, we'll go there first. So on the left-hand side, just find your custom post type. You would click Add New or Add New here. In my case, I already have some examples in here, so we'll just jump into one and take a look at what we have. So I added their name as the title. I'm going to minimize this just to save a little space here. And you can see all our custom fields are at the bottom here. You can choose to drag this up above Oxygen if you want, and to close it and open it. So you can see our field group here. We have our team member name, which I added the name here. I usually like to have that broken out besides our title of the page here, just in case I want to add more information like I did here. I have their position with our description down below. We have our email here and our phone number, and you can see that both of these are just the actual email and phone number. I don't need to include any link information. We have our about text area and then the image. So when we're adding our image, I apologize, I meant to click the X here. It just has an add media button here. So when you click that, it's going to open your media library, and you can either drag stuff in here from your computer desktop or choose what you have in here ready. In my case, I already uploaded them, and just go ahead and choose the one you want, click select, and then hit publish. One other note is if you're a newer user of Gutenberg, this is something I recently learned, is the typical view is going to be your full screen view, which it means you have to click the W to get back to the menu, adding multiple clicks in order to do stuff. But if you come into this top corner and see these three dots, if you choose that and uncheck full screen mode, you can see that now we have our menu over here. So instead of clicking the W and then coming over and clicking add new, we can just simply add new right away, making it much easier. I'm not going to go through the other team members because it's all the same layout and everything, just different information that I put in each of the fields. Next, we're going to look at our testimonials. So again, hover over it, click add new, or you can just click on the testimonials page and add new there. In my case, we're just going to go into one that we have existing here. Again, I have my title put in here, nothing in the actual content area. Minimize that. We have our field group down at the bottom here. Again, you can drag that up if you want, so it's above oxygen. We have our customer name, their title, the customer's company, and now you can see this range slider that we have. So this is what I'm talking about. So you can see that it defaults to 5 here. And we can either drag it and it automatically steps down to whole numbers, or you can also just click to different areas and it'll jump up as well. So I'm just going to leave this one at 5 because that's what it was saved as. And then I have my two text areas here, and this is where I'll explain a little bit more. So I like to do just a partial part of the testimonial, because when we create our archive page, or if we're going to do a testimonial slider on a home page or something, we want the sizing of the text to be very similar. So that way we don't have one testimonial that is, short, one sentence, and then we have another one that's a full paragraph, and now we have a vast different size of our testimonials, which really throws off our design. So by just adding a snippet, we can choose to add in just a single line. In this case, you can see it's not the first sentence, but almost a full line here. And we do the same thing in our other ones, which I'll jump to one other one just so we can see. So I'll go back over to testimonials and we'll look at this top one. And this one, you can see again that our first line item is about the same exact length. And this one, you can see I have a different rating just so we can see different things on the front end. So once you have all your data in, you can go ahead and click save, and we'll jump over to Oxygen now. So I'm going to go to my templates, and we'll start with our team members. First thing we want to do is set what our template's going to be for once we've named it. In my case, we want to do archive, click our checkbox for post types, and then click in here and choose our team members for this one. Then you can click update or save, and now we'll jump into Oxygen. All right, so I'm going to open my structure just so we can see everything in here. So I just added one section for this area. I added our heading. And again, don't pay attention to the design here. That's not as important. I just wanted to get the data in here and have it show in a somewhat appealing way. Certainly this is not how I would leave it if I was designing for an end product. So what I did is added a div inside my section just so I can make it so it's not full width, but it's taking up most of the area. Next, I put in my repeater. I set my query. I did not want to use the default. I went to custom. I set my post type to team member. And the reason I did this is so that I can choose my order. And I ordered it by date, and I set it to ascending. This way, because the president is the first one that I added, I want them to be showing first. So that way, the most important person is showing first rather than the last person that I added. So certainly if you don't need to worry about order, you can use the default or choose custom if you need to. But in this case, I set it to the custom one just so we can set the order. Once you've done that, click apply parameters. I also set a grid and I put it at 2 so you can just see we have side by side here, and everything else I just left default in here. Next, we'll jump inside our actual repeater. Because I went with a card, I did add a div inside of our repeater div. And inside this div, I set a background of gray. I set some padding all the way around just so we have some spacing. And the other thing I did is I made a utility class for rounded corners just because I used that a lot. So you can see I added that to give our rounded corners. Next, we'll look at our image. So here you can see that we are pulling our image in directly from our data field. So if you click data, meta box, and here you can see we have our team member image. And if you select that, it gives you the option to choose your sizing. You can choose what's necessary for you. What I did in this case is chose medium and click insert. And I didn't set a width or height at this point just because I'm using the sizing from the source set. Certainly you can change that as you need to. And again, you'd want to add your alt text if this is going to be an ed product. But I'm just showing you how easy it is to pull that data in. Again, we just clicked on data, MetaBox field shows up just like Advanced Custom Field would if we had that plugin instead. So again, it's very easy to just choose our image, choose our size, and insert. Next, I have another div here just containing all of our text over here. That way I have a side-by-side horizontal div is how I set this up here. I did set some spacing here, put my rounded corners on the image as well. But again, we don't want to worry about the actual design too much. We're just looking at the actual setup of this. So going down here inside this div, we're going to start with our link wrapper, which I have set to go to our permalink here. Again, in my URL, I just click data and permalink, and it automatically sets that. In here, I have a heading set to an H2. And if your global styles don't have your links set up exactly how you want, you can set those up directly here. In my case, I did put a text decoration of underline on here as it was not pulling in. So that way you just have more indication that it's a link here. And for this data, if we double click this, we come up to insert data, click our MetaBox field, and we want our team member name. So let's go ahead and find that here, which is this one. And we're going to insert and then click done. And you can see that's still there. We'll work our way down to our next field here, which is our next text box. Again, if we double click here, we can choose our insert data, MetaBox field, and team member position, and that will fill in for you. What I also did is I came to the front of this and I typed in position, and then I came up here and clicked bold. And that way I just have the position right in front of it filling in. And you can click done and you can see how that shows up now. The president is what is the dynamic data, where position is not dynamic. That's just static data. For the next fields, I did it a little bit differently. I added a div, set it to horizontal, took a text field, added our email. Again, if you double click it, you can do your bold. And then what I did for the email is I put in a text link. Again, if we double click this, we can come up to insert data, choose our MetaBox field, and we're just going to set that to team member email and click insert. Then you can click done, or you can just click off of it. The next thing you need to do is set your URL. So you come over to the URL, click data, MetaBox field, and we are going to set that to email. And you do not need to do anything else. It's all set there. Very similarly, we did our next one, which is our phone number. So I also added our text field and made that bold. Then I put the phone number in a text link. Again, we double click that, highlight that all, click insert data, and set our phone number. Then just click insert and done, and it puts our phone number. Now when I come over to click data and MetaBox, you'll notice that phone number is not showing up here. I think this is probably a bug. I did bring it to the attention of the Oxygen team, so we'll see if that gets fixed in later releases. If you're watching this later down the road, you may not be seeing that issue as you're going through and doing this. So what I did as a workaround in the time being is I just copied this shortcode right here and just pasted it into the URL. And then in front of it, I just added the tell to the link. Whereas the email, I did not need to do that. So I just wanted to show you what my workaround was here, just in case that isn't a bug and this is how it has to be done going forward. But in the case that is a bug and Oxygen comes back and fixes it, I expect it to work just like the email did, where we can just pull our data directly in and we are good to go. Next is our last text field here, which again is just a normal text field. I inserted data and chose our about team member. Click insert and done, and our data is all there. Because we're in a repeater, it fills in all of our other team members as well. And we can go ahead and click save. And when we look at the front end, this is the outcome that we get. So now you can see that when I look at our email for any given team member in the bottom left-hand corner here, you'll see that it has the mail to in front of the email. And on our phone number, you'll see because we added the tell, it's also showing in front of the phone number. And that holds true for all of these other team members as well. And we also have the link to go to the individual team member, which I haven't built out because it's all the same exact process of adding the same data. It would just be a slightly different layout. So I didn't want to take up too much time doing that. Next, we're going to look at our testimonials. So I'm going to jump back to our admin, go to Oxygen templates, and we're going to look at our testimonial archive. And again, I set my archive post type testimonial. Once we do that, we can click update or save, and we're going to open. Sometimes Oxygen thinks I have another one open, but you can see that I don't. So I'm just going to go ahead and click open anyway. In my case, you do want to verify before you do that you don't actually have it open somewhere else, but I know I don't because I'm the only one working in this. And again, I'm going to open my structure panel, and I'm going to actually click expand all. And again, I added a section, then my header, which I have set as an H1 for our testimonial. Just like our team members, I added a div and set it to 90% width, just so it's not taking up all of the area. And inside that div, I put my repeater. And in this one, my query I just left as default for our query just being the archive for our testimonials. So you can just click apply parameters because I didn't need to worry about our order at all. Next, I set my grid to 3, and I did set it to stretch so that they do a better job of being the same height. And then we'll jump inside our repeater div here. And again, I added another div inside that just so we can build out our card. And in here, I started at the top. You can see this one I have set to, I believe is our default vertical. And in our next div, you can see that I actually have an icon here, a text field followed by an icon. So the reason I put that in a div is just so I can still stack the rest of this with having a horizontal setup here. So in here I set my icon. You can set those as you see fit. I made them a little bit smaller than what they were and just added my quotes. And I set my color and opacity to be a little bit lower than normal. And the big design difference I did here is on this one, just to push it to the bottom under my sizing and spacing, I set my margin top to auto. So what that's going to do is automatically push it all the way to the bottom. So that way I have one at the top and one at the bottom showing an opening and closing. So I'll close that div, and next we're going to look at our rating. So now you can see that I have a total of 6 stars showing in here. What I did is first added my text field inside that div and just set it to rating. Again, I double clicked it and chose to make it bold. Then I started off putting one icon in. I set my color to a goldish yellow. I set my size, in my case, to 25, and I chose my star that's open to start. And then where this gets fun is we come up to our conditions up here. If you click on this icon, we can click Set Conditions. And what I did here is, if you click your drop down here, we can scroll down to Dynamic Data and MetaBox Field. And in this one, we want to search for our star rating and click Insert. Next, I changed this drop down. The default is equal to, and I set it to less than. And then I typed in the number 1. So basically what it's saying is if this custom field is less than 1, we're going to show this icon. So once you've done that, you can click this X and it applies your condition. You can see that it's glowing here, so that's how you know it's there. So basically what we're saying is if our value in the back end is less than 1, which our only option is 0, it's going to show this icon. Otherwise, it's going to hide it. So what I did from there is I just duplicated it 5 more times, and then actually I duplicated it once, I apologize, and changed it to a full star, everything else being equal. And on this one, I again came up to my conditions, set conditions, left my data exactly the same, and I changed my middle drop down from less than to greater than or equal to, and in this case, I set it at 1. So what this is saying is that this star is going to show if our rating is 1 or greater. Going to our next one, we'll check our conditions. Again, I left the greater than or equal to and just changed the value to 2 and did this same exact thing all the way to the top, which is set at 5. Again, the data is the same and the greater than or equal to is the same. And what this does is, as long, in our case on this last one, if our rating is 5, this one's going to show, this one's going to show, this one's going to show. All 5 full stars are going to show because they're all greater than or equal to 1. But this bottom one is not, because it's less than 1 is when it shows. So that way you can see we get different ratings. And that's how the range field works and how you can utilize it within Oxygen. So again, you can duplicate each of these icons to save yourself a little bit of design time. Next, I came down to my name and I set that as a title, or I apologize, I set that as the name. And I changed the styling a little bit. But again, you just double click, choose Insert Data, Metabox field, and testimonial name or customer name, and insert. Then you click Done, and it fills in. And lastly, we did the same thing for owner. I set Insert Data, Metabox, and we set our customer's title. Click Insert, and we have that as well. I don't remember if I showed the actual snippet. Again, you would just double click in here, insert your data, choose Metabox field, and Testimonial Snippet, and click Insert. Then click Done, or you can just click out and it'll pull in your data. So that's how I made these. And again, we used our range field, which is a new one that we haven't played with yet. And it just gives us another design option to show a star rating within our testimonials as well. And now you can see that all of these are roughly the same size. Looks like 2 of them are 4 lines and 2 of them end up going to 5 lines by a couple of words. Certainly we could play with that a little bit to get them closer if we wanted to, but they're not drastically different. Because we don't have one that has a full paragraph versus one that only has one, a sentence or 2. Once we went to the actual full testimonial, which I would probably put in either just link the full card or add a button in here as well, which, we could do. Let me just minimize these. And here I could add let's do a text link. In my class, I have some utility classes in here. And if I double click this and it highlights, I can change this to read full testimonial. I can come up to insert data, and we're going to set, actually, no, I apologize, we're not setting custom data there. We are going to set our custom data in the actual URL field. So data and permalink. So now you can see that I have a button here that's going to take us directly to our full testimonial, which again, I might add some spacing here just so we have a little bit more. Again, I'm not paying attention too much to design here, just the actual function of it. So now I can click Save. We can come back to the front end, hit refresh, and you can see we have our button here. So right now you can see I can click it. It's just going to take us to a blank page because I don't have a template set up for that. But that would be our next move. And again, you can see that we have how our different stars show up based on what we entered. So this is indicating that they rated us 0. This is a 1 star, 4 star, and 5 star. 5 star is the default setting for it. So again, that's why I set it that, because I figure most people would be adding 5 stars to their website, choosing the best testimonials to show their customers. So again, I didn't pay attention to design too much, just more on the function of how to use these different data fields and how easy it is now that it's fully integrated with Oxygen. If you have questions, do let me know. I'm going to be making more videos going through different field types and doing more difficult things than just text fields like most of what I've showed today. But again, it's pretty simple now, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys in the next videos.